Christ? The most popular answer is the answer of the Pharisee. They don't quite say, Lord, I thank thee that I am not like this man, I fast twice a day, etc. But that's what they say. I have led a good life, I am kind, I try not to hurt people, I am tolerant. This is why you should let me into heaven. This is why the Catholic Church has apologized to the world for its most disastrous failure in 2,000 years in the very title of what it's now doing, the new evangelization. What's new about it is not that it's the new gospel, it's got a new audience. It's not pagans anymore, it's Christians. We have to learn lesson one. Got a great building, but the foundation is in disrepair.
There seems to be a discrepancy in the reason Oriol supposedly did not see the palace. Is it more because Oriol was envious of Psyche's happiness and palace and lover, or was it because Oriol wanted to keep Psyche for herself?
The two answers are identical. We see what we want to see. Good psychologists assure us that we are surprisingly powerful in fooling ourselves. And certainly in the realm of religion, where most of it is not empirical seeing, we believe what we want to believe. Now, what Oriol wanted was Psyche for herself. What she most did not want was to give up Psyche to the god. So she wanted the god either not to be or to be ugly. And she wanted the palace either not to be or to be ugly. And she saw, truly, for a moment, that palace. And then she said, no, I will not see that.
Is it necessary to detach from earth to possess heaven, or are they interpenetrating in a teleological way?
Well, both. Yes, it is necessary to detach your adoration, your worship, your hope from everything on earth, yes. And that's a very hard thing to do. And that's why death is a mercy. Because if it weren't for death, we could never do that. Death forces us to do what we most deeply know we ought to do and most deeply want to do, but can't have the power in ourselves to do, namely detach ourselves from everything on earth. If the geneticists got their way and found the secret to artificial immortality by genetic engineering, and many of them are actively working on that right now, I think the hope of heaven would almost die. We absolutely have to detach ourselves, yes. But that does not mean that we detach ourselves from the vision of the sacramental beauty of earth. Everything in earth is art made by the divine artist. So that art and science come to the same thing. All science is reading God's art. So yes and no, detach yourself, detach your worship love from the things of earth. Do not detach your vision of the truth from the things of earth, and do not detach your appropriate creature love of the works of art from your vision of earth, but worship the artist, not the art.
What is the most prominent fallacy of modern atheism?
Well, there's an embarrassingly obvious answer to that question, that God isn't there. But it's not merely, I think there's a deeper fallacy. Obviously, everyone here knows that God exists and that atheists are wrong. But behind the atheist's assertion that God does not exist and religious people are wrong for thinking that he does exist, there is, I think, usually a deeper fallacy, namely that religion is a hypothesis, a theory, a philosophy, a set of beliefs that God exists. Well, the important thing is not that God exists. The deistic God exists too, but it doesn't make any difference. Read Ecclesiastes. And don't read the last two verses because they were probably added by another author. That gives the first author's answer. First author of Ecclesiastes says, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Is he an atheist? No. There's a God. He doesn't question God. But God makes no difference. He's a deist. God's in his heaven, all wrong with the world. That's it. So the question is God present? Will I meet God? Am I now meeting God? That's the religious question. The atheist ignores that very question and transposes that question into the purely abstract, impersonal, theoretical question, is there a God? Is there a first cause? Is there a supreme being? If he only dared to ask the religious question, is there a God who is the meaning of my life? Is there a God who is the ultimate desire of my soul? Is this why I have a restless heart, because it's meant to rest in him? Is that true? If he really asked that question, he probably had an answer. He would certainly get an answer sooner or later. But he doesn't ask that question. He asks the wrong question. So even if an atheist converted and got the right answer to his abstract theoretical question, oh yes, there is a first cause. Okay, now I'm a theist. But nothing else changes. Well, then nothing else would change.
Do we have any other questions from the audience?
When I first read Till We Have Faces, it struck me as an elaboration on an idea that was mentioned in one chapter in The Great Divorce of the woman who was bereaved of her son, Michael. She also loved her son with possessive love. Could you elaborate on the difference between Oriol's sin and redemption and this woman's sin and possible damnation?
It's the same thing. We get a fuller picture of it Until We Have Faces. But the fact that these memorable figures occur in two different books of Lewis strongly indicates that he had experience as such a person. And I suspect, although he never admits this in any of his letters or writing, that Mrs. Moore was such a person. You know the story. He and Patty Moore were trenchmates in World War I, and Patty's father had died and Lewis's mother had died, and they were both worried about their old parents, so they made a pact. If either of them were killed in war, the survivor would promise to take care for the rest of his life of their aging parent. Patty died. So Lewis invited Mrs. Moore to live with him. Some people have made the atrocious slander that Lewis had sex with Mrs. Moore. She was an old bitch. Lewis may have been randy as a youth, but I guarantee you he did not have sex with Mrs. Moore. We know that she was a slave driver, and that she had absolutely no sympathy for him or his career, and he just had to do housework half the day. And there's hardly a man in the world who loves doing housework. But this was his purgatory. He wrote the following epitaph. Not necessarily to Mrs. Moore, but I think he had her in mind. She was one of these busy, gossipy women who supposedly are very charitable, but are always really making trouble for everybody else under the pretext of helping them. The epitaph goes, erected by her sorrowing brothers, in memory of Martha Clay, here lies one who lived for others. Now she has rest, and so have they.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Dr. Kreeft. After our evensong tonight, we'll have a wonderful fish dinner that we invite you to. And after our fish dinner, we'll have an amazing concert that you will not want to miss. So just remind you of that. There has been questions about childcare for the concert. We do have childcare, so you don't have to worry about that. This time, it's time for our next workshop.
All right.